welcome back. This is Jason Hartman, and today we are talking about what some might consider to be the holy grail of metrics when it comes to any investment, when it comes to understanding the return, and that is the internal rate of return, otherwise known as IRR. And I'll tell you what, this is not going to be easy. Nah, don't worry, it's not too hard. But if you are a coffee drinker and you want to grab a cup of coffee, it wouldn't hurt, because you got to pay a little more attention to this one. This is definitely some heavy stuff, but not to worry. We're going to show you how to make it real easy. And that is with the help of computers. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's talk about internal rate of return. Our objectives in this lesson are you're going to learn how to calculate this when it comes to a property investment. You're going to learn what factors make it increase and, of course, what factors make it decrease. And, I remember in the good old days, when I was learning how to analyze deals, I was at the ripe old age of 19. I was in my first year of college, and I had just finished real estate school, and I was about to get my license. I just wanted to learn all I could. I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks and didn't have money, and I just wanted to be successful so badly. So I took every class I could, and I remember our instructor in this one class made us calculate internal rate of return on a good old-fashioned calculator. It wasn't totally manual, but he made us do the calculation, each part of it manually, and it was, man, that was a lot of work. It's going to be much easier here, so don't panic. You're getting the easy way out. When I walked to school, it was uphill both ways. Just kidding. Sometimes we've heard our parents or our grandparents say that. It's funny. They always say life was so much tougher back then. Well, they're actually probably right in some ways. But that's for another discussion for another day. Anyway, what is internal rate of return? Well, the IRR it's basically the interest rate. Okay, it's like it's a return on investment, as the name would imply, that shows us the overall compounded rate of return based on a series of cash flows over time. So on the last couple of lessons, we looked at calculating returns in a way like taking a snapshot in time. Well, here we are, I guess, also taking a snapshot, but we're looking back or maybe projecting forward over the course of possibly a few years, possibly 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. And we want to see how this interacts over time to really understand our investment at a deep level. Now, this IRR stuff, this is advanced stuff, okay? But, you're advanced investors, right? You want to know everything about real estate investing, so this is kind of the holy grail. And there are some things for the real serious geeks and nerds out there that even go beyond IRR. Okay, but we're not going to touch on that. IRR is enough, okay? So this is important because it incorporates the time value of money. And, what happens to money over time, right? In an inflationary environment, money is debased, or it goes down in value over time. So that is important to understand, the time value of money. And there's another concept called opportunity cost. And that is impacted when we talk about this time value of money issue, okay? So the near-term cash flows, they have a greater impact than the cash flows that are far out in the future. Would you rather have $1 today or $1 in 10 years? Well, of course, you're going to say, I'd rather have the dollar today, And you're probably going to say that for two basic reasons. Number one, surety. $1 today, is like a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, as the old, what am I with all these old sayings? I literally heard some of these from my great grandmother, bless her heart, she's long passed away. But, these are some old sayings we've been talking about in the last couple of lessons here. So it's kind of funny. But, you'd rather have money today because you can do something with it. So there's that opportunity to use the money today. But not just that. I think you and probably everybody intuitively knows that we basically live in an inflationary world, and that dollar today is probably there's a strong chance it's going to be worth more than the dollar 10 years from now. Okay, so that's why it's important to analyze cash flows over time. Okay, so how do we calculate IRR? Oh boy, I hope that coffee is kicking in now because you're going to need it. Nah, not really. Using Excel, we can align cash flows in a single column with the initial negative cash flow outlay at first, if it's negative, and the cash flow each year into a new row. The provided template, don't worry, you don't have to do this yourself. The template's provided and it shows the function format for the IRR calculation. Okay, check this out. The calculation of IRR is complicated because it requires discounting a string of cash flows backward to determine the compounded rate of return. Look at that. Oh, that's too much work. No thanks. Let's just pass on that. I mean, you think E equals MC squared is complicated? Look at what's behind that on the screen, right? That is some serious nerdy stuff, and I don't even want to touch it. Fortunately, there's a simple function in Excel or in other spreadsheets too. We're not promoting the Excel brand here. That's a Microsoft brand, but you could use it. It's commonly used, but there are other spreadsheets and softwares, of course, that calculate it. So lower upfront cash outlay, decreasing the amount of cash required at the beginning increases your effective compounded rate of return, and that is with leverage. The higher overall cash flows, the greater cash flows will increase the compounded rate of return. Remember, again, we're taking the metrics from the last couple of lessons, and we're basically putting them in, and we're considering them over time, and we've got to discount those because of opportunity cost and inflation or net present value. You've probably heard that one before. Okay, so the greater near-term cash flows, right? The IRR calculation gives greater weight to cash flows that occur sooner versus later. Isn't that nice? What a handy little feature. So the takeaway here, the internal rate of return calculation is sensitive to both the amount of initial investment, because hopefully you're using leverage, and the timing of the cash flows because of the time value of money. What factors make it decrease? Higher upfront cash outlay and larger amounts of cash are required at the beginning as they drag down the effective compounded return. The lower overall cash flows, smaller cash flows, decrease the compounded rate of return, similar to a low-yielding bond. If you have a bond that doesn't pay much in terms of its yield, well, heck, you're getting creamed over time and by inflation with that, right? The greater cash flows out in time, okay, that occur a long time in the future are given less weight by the internal rate of return calculation because they carry a higher degree of uncertainty. Remember, that bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. When large amounts of upfront investment are required, or when the cash flows are far into the future, the resulting internal rate of return will definitely be lower. Okay, what about the long-term perspective here? Okay, this is the long-term perspective on an investment. It's how you understand an investment over time. So your action item, and I know this will sound hard, but it's really not, because you've got computers, you've got software to help you with it. It'll make it much easier. Okay, calculate the internal rate of return on a property that is held for 10 years under 3 basic scenarios: inflation, deflation, and stagnation. The badge action: enter the information into the provided template and then take a screenshot and upload it. Okay, so inflation, property prices and rents are increasing. Deflation, the prices and the rents are decreasing. Stagnation, they're pretty much flat. So upload the screenshot, not the actual template. Just upload the screenshot and you got your badge. Okay, folks, that was the hardest lesson. Internal rate of return, that's advanced stuff. Okay, you don't freak out about this one. You're probably not going to use it very often. Maybe you'll never use it, but it is the way you need to analyze an investment if you want to look at something over 5 or 10 years or over any length of time, because a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. Something you're sure of today is more valuable than something you're unsure of far into the future, when you don't know how valuable that income stream will be because of inflation, or you don't even know if you'll get it at all. And the opportunity to have it and use it today is more valuable. That's the basic concept of IRR. All right, talk to you on the next lesson.